This video is not a step-by-step guide how to set up your first ad campaigns. Instead, this is for you if you're already running campaigns, but you want to learn the principles what to follow to run your Facebook ads in the best possible way. So in this video I will tell you 7 core principles to follow regardless of what media buying system exactly you run. These principles will be always true, and if you follow them you will run your ads in the best possible way on Facebook. My name is William and I've generated over 12 million in sales for 7 and 8 figures e-commerce brands. With that having said, let's get straight into the video. So one principle that you want to follow and that I see most brands actually ignore is minimizing audience overlap. Most brands still run the old system where you have like a testing campaign and a scaling campaign and maybe even a retargeting campaign. Nowadays that's rather damaging for performance. The reason for that is because if 2 different campaigns target the same audience, you actually bid against yourself and that diminishes your returns. So what you want to do instead is actually running all the ads, testing, scaling and retargeting just in one campaign. It's very easily set up. Basically you just want to put different ad sets, and depending on the ad set you can have different concepts. For example, ads for your cold audience or ads for your warm audience. And if they perform, you can just scale the budget on those ad sets. And if you're running a CBO, Facebook will automatically allocate more budget to those ad sets. So essentially it really simplifies the account structure and at the same time increases your returns. If you're not doing this yet, I recommend transitioning into a simpler, more solidified campaign structure. Now that was about campaigns, but talking about ad sets, we come to point number 2, and that is scientific split testing. You never want to just launch some ads randomly. Like for example, I've seen some brands launch just the batch of week 23 of the year, and there they put like different static images, different videos in it, or they make 2 ad sets and they separate by images and videos. But the problem with that is that this is basically not a real test. That's quite random. You just throw something into the account and hope that, well, you'll get another winning ad. Now instead of doing that, I recommend following a systematic structure of split testing where you actually get learnings and get better with every creative cycle. So what I do is using different ad sets for different ad concepts. For example, you have another idea that you want to test. Let's say it's an organic talking testimonial video. Then what you want to do with this is actually make 3 to 5 split testing versions of that video, and you only want to test one variable, because if it's not only one variable you won't be able to tell like if one of the versions performs better, is it because of this or that or whatever else you changed. So you want to make 3 to 5 different versions, but only one thing should be different between those versions. And since the hook has the biggest impact on if a person will actually even watch the video or not, what I usually do is making 3 to 5 different visual hooks and then having the same ad concept. For that you just use one ad set, and if you have, let's say, another idea and that's a newsletter style static ad, you just make again different split testing versions for that and then launch them in another ad set. That way Facebook will allocate most of the budget to one of those split testing versions. And the best thing is it doesn't just increase the chance of success of your ad, but actually it also tells you what resonates more with your audience, because you will see that, okay, they resonate more with these visuals or they resonate more with this headline on the newsletter style static ad, and from there you can note down those learnings and consider that whenever you make new ads in the future. So that way every test gives you more info than just, oh, it performed or it didn't perform, but you actually get learnings from each test that you can then use for all future ads for overall better performance. Now you know how to run the campaigns, now you know how to run the ad sets, now we come to actually scaling. So scaling is very simple right now. All you want to do is to look at the average last 3 days. If your ROAS or your cost per acquisition is better than your goal for that, you just want to go and increase the budget by 20%. This is something you do daily. You look at the last 3 days, and if it's better, then you increase it by 20%. If it's worse than your target, then you just decrease it by 20%. It doesn't matter if you run a CBO or an ABO. If you run a CBO, you just do it based on the campaign performance. If you run an ABO, you just look at the ad set performance and do it for each ad set. Now, as we have scaling covered, point number 4 is killing ads. Because if a test doesn't perform, then of course you want to kill it at some point, but many people wonder, okay, when should I actually kill it? For that, again, you go into the account every single day and look at each ad's performance for the last 7 days. If the performance for the last 7 days is better than your break even, then you just keep the ad running because, well, maybe it's not a target, but still it brings money in. But if it's for the last 7 days below break even, then you just want to kill it and switch it off. As simple as that. Now the next point, and this is very, very important, and this is what many like mid and low level media buyers ignore is actually funnel tracking and ad analysis. So for that, you first of all want to set up your columns like this. This is very important because, as you can see, it's set up in a way that it goes through every action and every intermediate conversion rate that a consumer goes through before the purchase. So first, of course, they get hooked, then they watch the ad, then they click the ad, then they get to the website, then they add to cart, then they initiate the checkout, then they purchase. And with this setup, you can see every single intermediate conversion metric in the funnel, and you can also determine bottlenecks very fast if you track every single number of those. I personally do it in this kind of funnel tracking sheet for every brand that I work with. So if you haven't something like that yet, I recommend making one because then you can see the trends immediately. By using this setup, you can actually reverse engineer and calculate exactly what you need to hit in what step of the funnel. For example, if you know your cost per purchase that you want to achieve, you can then go back and think, okay, so with this ratio that I have, what cost per initiated checkout I need to achieve, what cost per add to cart I have to achieve, what cost per click I have to achieve, and so on. And then when you see, okay, for example, I get the cost per click, I get the cost per add to cart, but then the cost per initiate checkout is too high to achieve my cost per purchase goal, you can just go and improve that step of the funnel to actually achieve your cost per acquisition goal. Now, after these 5 points, you actually have all the core principles that you want to apply to run the ads very efficiently, but there are some additional strategies that you can use to squeeze even more out of your ads. And about these I'll talk now. So first of all, you have of course your main campaign where you test and scale and retarget and everything. What you can add to this is actually like a booster campaign, is how I call it. There's just an Advantage Plus campaign where you put in all the winners that you get from your main campaign. Now, of course, this violates a bit principle 1 that I presented, which is minimizing audience overlap, but still, from my experience, it's worth it. Because the algorithm of the classic broad CBO or the classic broad ABO is a bit different from the Advantage Plus algorithm, and if you run it, you might actually get way better performance from your existing winning ads. I've seen that for some brands it works extremely well, or for others it doesn't really work well, but if you haven't tested it yet, I highly recommend testing it now. Another strategy is running an audience testing campaign. So this is kind of a relic from the past, because right now targeting broad and just targeting with the messaging on your creatives works by far the best on Facebook ads and Instagram ads. But for some specific products, it actually can make sense to choose custom audiences, to choose like lookalikes and interest audiences. And usually this isn't really scalable because those audiences are of course way more limited than if you just select the broad audience and then it scales within there. But for some brands it still makes sense. For example, if you have a certain winner, you can also put all your winners into an audience testing campaign and then basically test new audiences and squeeze out more performance from those winners. Still, your main campaign will be broad. If you see that every single winner that you put there performs way better than in your main campaign, this usually never happens, but if you see that, then you might actually consider to switch your main campaign to this specific audience and run it in there. But what's very important is that the audience is actually big enough to scale. Now, if you follow these principles, you will run your meta ads with the best possible media buying system. And from here, it's all about actually running great ad creatives at a great volume. So if you want me to provide you with high quality ad creatives every single week to launch, click the link in the description and book a free call with me. But if you're not at a point to delegate and first want to learn yourself how to make more ads or how to make better ads, check out this video where I explain how you can generate a lot of quality ads with the help of AI. See you there. Bye.